Heyo everybody, Haku here with my live reaction for Tower of God chapter 599. This is kind of mind-blowing as I've been setting up to record. 599, we are one away from 600. That means next week I get to do the screen time video and I am just so incredibly excited. I'm excited to be here because these chapters, like around the 600 mark, were stuff that people were hyping up months ago. The last two chapters were incredible, so I'm really excited to see what content there is to get into this time. It is chapter 599, but also season 3, episode 182. I should also mention the season episode sort of chapter number for these. But yeah, I don't think there's too much big stuff to get into before I start reading this week. I think I only have two things to talk about. The first of which is something that is kind of obvious, but I only really sort of internalized it, only really sort of realized it last week. After I did my video, usually my schedule is when this comes out at 9, I'll record it, and then while I'm doing the process of editing, rendering, uploading, making a thumbnail, all that stuff, I will watch Dr. Bonehead's VOD for his stream while I'm doing that. And something that I commented there that I just finally thought about was, even though, like, I was saying that I kind of, in the past, didn't really care too much for Dumas's character design. I didn't think he looked too great, but last chapter really won me over and made me think Dumas looked really cool. And the thing that just hit me was, much like Karaka, this is just a suit of armor. So without the suit of armor, we don't really know what the actual real body of Dumas looks like, and Dumas could be somebody else who looks like Gaston. Much like how I have always figured that Karaka looks like his brothers, looks like Wang Nan, the boss slash captain slash Dejang, whatever you want to call them. I figured that's what Karaka looks like, so there's always a chance that Dumas does look very Pobadao, and again, talking about that makes me realize, you know, last week I mentioned before how there are some out there Pobadaos. There's Kier, there's Proust, there are some odd looking ones where I was like, but you look at the Lopobias and many of them, especially the ones really closely related to Traumarai, are like people with green hair. There's at least some sort of design similarity going on there, especially a few of them. Ren looks pretty similar to Traumarai in a lot of ways, but especially Goruro and Purpur. I think they're the most Traumarai looking ones. The most out there is Kirin. Kirin very much takes after his mother, seemingly. But even Lobanon, who has gray hair now, but you can see like the ends of it are still green. You could imagine a younger Lobanon looking a lot more like Traumarai. But we like, though we have some out there Pobadaos, and a couple of our Pobadaos are sort of mixed with other families like Liboric or Mate, we do have a few that have some character design similarities in my opinion. Like, you've got Gaston, and I feel like Bellerir kind of looks like Gaston. Ruini kind of has that look. Erno looks kind of like that. Then there's, oh, what was his name? That fought Yama. Oh man, I am forgetting their name already, but that guy, the guy with the key on his chest, who I probably remembered his name right before recording this, but when you're on the spot, you always forget these things. And also, even though Richemont, that motherfucker is not real. That guy is just words. He's fictional. But that guy also kind of shares that sort of design scheme. There's the guy with the fluffy hat who was maybe also the book police guy. Book police guy kind of looks like that. So Dumas without the armor could look like all of them. Dumas could actually have a really cool design outside of the armor that we just haven't seen yet. It's bothering me now. What was that guy's name? They're all named after authors, so it's an author name. I'm pretty sure it was another French one, because they're like all French. Oh no, this is bothering me so much that I can't remember it. Giscard, that was what his name is. I am not even going to play with you all. I just had to stop. I was like, this is gonna bother me if I don't remember it. So I sat here for like a good 20 seconds. I was like, it starts with a G. It's got to start with a G. I remember that much. And I think it ends with an R. Technically it ends with a D, but it's silent. So eventually I was like, it is on the tip of my brain, but I had to Google it. I was like, Pobedal starts with a G, and then like, Giscard came up, and I was like, okay, that's what it was. But I seriously sat here in silence, thinking for a good 20 seconds. I was like, I can't remember this guy's name. But point being, Dumas might look like all of those guys. The other of the two things I wanted to bring up, people always bring up the other translations, some of the things that are different there. And one thing that I wanted to bring up that was different in last week's translation, again, for anybody who doesn't know this information, or for anybody who just wants me to bring it up, one of the things that was different that I thought was kind of important was when Urek is talking to Mirchea, and Mircea's like, in the other translation, Mircea's like, you shouldn't butt your nose into other people's families, specifically, which is something that, I've been saying forever, that I think that Mircea named Bam Viol because he thinks that Bam is Arlen's kid, returned because of the prophecy, and now with all of that stuff going on in recent chapters, there's a little bit of doubt thrown in there. I guess there's always from the very beginning been a little bit of doubt as to like certain things about the story, because Garam didn't tell us everything, but it is once again evidence that Mircea does think that Bam is Viol. Mircea thinks that he's a part of his family. And again, it's one of those things where we still don't know how Mircea and Arlen are related, because in the old blog post lore, there's like a backstory about Mircea being from the 80th floor, but there's also a bunch of backstory stuff from Yama that straight up was not true. So we don't know how much of that is going to be changed. But also in the, blog lore stuff, we're told that Yeon Hana has a relative in the tower, Yeon Yarde. And if Yeon Hana's an irregular, does that mean Yarde is an irregular? Does that mean that Yarde is like an adopted family member from within the tower? Does she just somehow have a relative that was already native born in the tower? And which of those cases are Mircea? Was Mircea adopted into Arlen's family, or vice versa? I guess Arlen could have been adopted into the Grace family for all we know. Were they actually siblings? And I doubt that they're actually siblings. I doubt that Mircea is actually an irregular. It's very complicated. It is very confusing. Also, I think I am going to start... And again, we know that just getting off on tangent after tangent, we know that the workshop exists both inside and outside of the tower, so there clearly is some informational cross-contamination there. So, again, how does Yeon Hana have a relative in the tower? How does Grace Arlen have a relative in the tower, being Luslec, who considers, because Luslec said in the other translation, don't butt into other people's families, viewing Bam as a relative, a part of the Grace family. It is really interesting, and I can't wait for more Mircea backstory. And I think, even though I've been saying Luslec a lot, I need to start saying Mircea more, because what we've seen in Tower of God is we have a ton of triple names, and in essentially every case, the middle name is their given name, like Ha Yuri Zahard, Kun Masheni Zahard, Pobedal Mate Ha, Pobedal Liborik Kud, Kun Agro Agnes. We know that Kun's family calls him Aguero because Kun Agnes is his mother and Kun Edwan's his father. So the middle name seems to be the given name, except Kunhin Luck. Kunhin Luck was called Luck by Arlen, by Dewan, I think. So that might be like the one exception. So, and also, what got me onto this was I was recently rereading some early Season 2 stuff, and in early Season 2, Jinsung calls him Mircea. So Jinsung calls him Mircea, all these other guys we've been seeing like Garnak keep calling him Lord Grace, so it seems like I should be going with Mircea here. But either way, I think that's all of the discussion to be had. Didn't think that talking about those two things would turn into this long of an intro, but here we are. Let's actually read chapter 599, and then probably there's some more stuff I want to talk about with Urek and Mircea, but I'll talk about that after the chapter. And it's so cool. It's so hype, because again, there's another thing I brought up in the comments, that Mircea versus Urek, even if it's not like a real fight, they're just confronting each other. They're just face to face. That is kind of, in a way, a bigger deal than even two of the family heads. That's kind of even a bigger deal than Gaston and Traumerei, because Gaston and Traumerei are lower ranked than Urek and Mirchea, respectively. So we're seeing two higher ranked people face off with one another here. But either way, let's finally get into reading. What are you doing here, Urek? I thought you agreed not to get involved with anything that happens inside the tower. Why don't you just look for a way out of the tower like usual? Well, I know that's what I said before, but I've had a little change of heart. The truth is, I'm against this fight, and I'm not going to go over what I think Urek is going for, what I think he means by all this, because I said it at the end of last reaction, and I still stand by. I think that's my read on Urek's character. I don't want any of the Tan family heads to die yet. I see. If that's why you came here, then you'll need my permission to pass. You're kidding, right? Since when have I ever needed anyone's permission to do anything? And then we start off, the unauthorized one too. So I wonder if we see more of Bam and Traumerei this chapter too then. But this is exciting. These are probably the two highest ranked people we have ever seen face to face. For, again, those that don't know, for people who aren't lore heads or anything, Mirchea is rank 15 in the tower, and Urek is rank 4? So, the two highest. Meanwhile, we don't know Traumerei's rank, but we know it's lower than 15, and Gaston is 14. So Gaston is only the rank above Mirchea. Alright. This purple. We've got Kelhelm and Jinsung hanging out. Well, I suppose we'd better stay out of this, huh? And that's Garnak returning to them. It looks that way. So again, if we count, it's never been made exactly clear if Jinsung counts as an elder, but if he does, this is like 3 of our refugee elders together. It looks that way. I'm like so happy seeing this though, I really can't stop smiling. I don't think either of them are going to do anything too reckless right now. There's no point in getting involved in their argument. And again, Urek just being absolutely jacked out of his mind. I didn't come here with the intention of fighting you all. At least, this will be a good warm-up for me. Is that so? I'm not sure who you came here to fight. But, in case you can't tell by looking at me, fighting me is going to be a lot more than a warm-up. If there's any darkness in this tower, it's me. Okay. And this could be a summoning, or it's interesting that it looks like light here. Because we know that regular Shinsu control without quality applied to it is meant to look like water, but regular Shinsu without quality applied to it using Shinwan Ryu is meant to be portrayed as light. So it's interesting that this looks like light. He claps his hands together. Dark. Charge. Man, this is absolute insanity. It's like, see, he was like, okay, let's introduce Mirchea and then go immediately into combat. And is this a transformation even? Wait, 3 times, is this 3 times in a row? Is this the trifecta of damn it being censored? The triple damn it censor? What's wrong with him? Drat, what's wrong with him? We're right here. Just make it a progressively sillier word being censored each time. Run. He's using a dark charge. Alright? So Jinsung's booking it out of there. What the heck is wrong with that guy? And is this Urek reacting? He's destroying the floating ship. And then we have Urek pushing the ship out of the way. Trying to protect it. This is a really... because it does look kind of like cascading water. This is a really interesting move, and he just clapped his hands together. Hey, that's one of my favorite floating ships. Are you going to compensate me if it breaks? What a shame. If it means that much to you, then I'd love to destroy it. Besides, I can easily buy you a new floating ship. And it does look like we have some sort of transformation. Mirchea Luslec in dark charge mode. Okay then. I have a lot more money than you do. And then you just flex the money on him? That son of a... He knows exactly what buttons to push, and Urek's actually getting mad because of it. Dark Charge. And he's bringing his hands together again. Unleashed. And it creates this small, like, sprout. That little prick. He doesn't miss a beat. He doesn't miss a beat. So get away from me, you bitch, I guess. That's a lot of asterisks. Ack. Alright. And then his feet are between the hands here. So he's charging in, it seems. And it seems like the sprout is just turning into this amalgam with eyes and all. Urek charges in. And kicks through, but it looks, since there's hair down there, it looks like he probably dodged under. The spell? Oh! If it's a spell, remember, and there's hair at the top too, the ever-curious Levy. We just brought it up a couple chapters ago. The ever-curious Levy used the spell where it was like hair of the sage or something. Is this the same spell? And he reforms behind him. Nothing personnel, kid. Okay, and it's like his hands are creating more flowers. And I wonder if this flower control or flower manipulation is something primordial, because it's similar to Dewan, in a way. Or, you know, this could be interesting. We know that the 5, like, primordial elements of the native one of them is plants, which is what Kelhelm can use, and Luslec or Mirchea also has the weird, like, bit on his face. So I wonder if he also has native 1 powers and he's using actual plants, or if he could be using plant elemental, like, Shinsu quality to affect the nature of his Shinsu. Now we have Urek rushing in again. And again we have like these buds forming around him. So it does seem to be plant elemental, like Shinsu quality almost. Unless it's actual plants, but it doesn't look like actual plants. It looks like it's Shinsu quality. Water Aram unleashed. This is just craziness. Damn it. Darn, watch out. That guy isn't messing around. I thought you'd back down after a minute or two. You're sure taking this seriously right from the start. It's time for me to get serious too. He stomps down. 10% Shinsu reinforcement. Are you ready to ramp things up? He bursts and charges away in an instant. But it still seems like he's just like kicking through darkness, or like the hair spell. That spell again. I'm sure there's some way to deactivate the spell, but I don't like overthinking things. I have a much simpler solution. I'll just beat the crap out of him. 15%. He strengthens himself further before he gets a chance to use the spell. And he's blitzing him. Alright. He manages to get a hit on the side of his head, it seems. That attack just now would have knocked the head right off most people. You FUG people must have skulls of steel. It's so hard. Oh? I can't tell if he... It seems like he dodged back away from it and hit his own attack on Urek's abdomen. Piercing technique. Oh shit, he's actually going piercing technique on Urek. And it seems like it only knocked him back for a split second, so now he has to blitz at him. Urek's recoiling from all the hits. And he steps down onto his foot to keep him in place. Oh? Geez, this is crazy from the both of them. And this looks almost similar to what Jinsung does. His hand movement there. And it looks like he lands a punch with it, and he knocks Urek back. Again, the phrase knocks Urek back. People from Wall Haksong appear to have strong ribs as well. But wait, aren't you the vice commander? Wow, bringing up his rank. It doesn't seem right for me to fight someone below my level. You really do have a gift for pissing people off, don't you? Really? Mirchea is just being the most petty person ever in this fight. Just wait. I'm about to be promoted for beheading an FUG commander. I think that might ruin your chances of being promoted. And he starts to form another bit of Shinsu within his hands. Unleash. And again, he's just creating more plants. Plumed thistle. Again, I wonder what other people are going to say if they think this is, or like you all, I mean, obviously, if you're watching this. If you all think this is actual, like, primordial plants, like what the native, like what the native ones could use, or if this is him imbuing plant-style Shinsu quality. Plumed thistle. And if it is plant-style Shinsu quality, if that's also connected to like the flower nations or what Dawan does. A weak-willed person like you could never kill me. Alright, weak-willed. You have no idea how much willpower I really have. You're gonna regret saying that. He gets ready to charge in again. 25%. Oh, and is he speeding right past him? I can't tell. Yeah, he does. He cuts right past him. And again, cuts into his body, but with high rankers, and especially with the spell stuff going on, not 100% sure how much that matters. And he tears apart the plant he was forming. See, I told you I don't want anyone to die yet, but I'm warning you. If you keep getting on my nerves, you'll be next. I can't stand how cheerful you are. And we're ending here? We're ending here? That's got to be the quickest. I probably had more discussion than read through there. I know it was a lot of combat, though, and obviously combat chapters are shorter because there's less dialogue, but I probably yapped more in the intro than the actual read-through. Let me get the credits up here. Let me do that while we talk. So the thing I wanted to mention before that I think is actually pertinent now, because even though Urek's like, you're going kind of serious from the start, I definitely don't think this is the height of Mirchea's abilities. I think there's probably way, way more than this, and this is certainly not the height of Urek's abilities, because he's using Shinsu reinforcement at 25%, and that's just Shinsu reinforcement. Urek strikes me as a physical fighter, the kind of person who that's his strong suit. That's what he defaults to. But at the same time, that's just what he's using. Urek's not pulling out any weapons. We don't know if he's really a weapon user. He's not busting out any like actual wave controllery techniques. Again, we don't know if that's something that Urek even bothers to do. But he is using just Shinsu reinforcement. Meanwhile, again, Mirchea is using the sort of wave controller plant techniques that he's using, and that's roughly it. Other than the fact that he did hit him with some piercing technique stuff. But it's really interesting seeing them get hits off on each other like this and the way that it's all working. I don't think that either is really going all out. I don't think that either is going to go all out. Because again, Urek's talking big. Urek's like, oh, I'll kill the FUG commander or whatever. I'll do this, I'll do that. You'll be next. But I don't really think Urek means it. Because again, Urek doesn't want to kill people, A, and also B, like what Mirchea said, if you kill me, I don't think that'll help you get a promotion. It's probably not the best move for him to take out the leader of FUG. That's probably not good for Wall Haksong. Again, it's something that I don't imagine Urek would want to do. And meanwhile, on the other side of things, while Mirchea is being just an absolute you know, Dick being a troll, just trying to get under his skin and provoke him and just be an annoyance to Urek. Really, what he wants out of this is to see the family heads fight each other, to see the 10 families do damage to one another. I think that even if he doesn't think that either of them will die in this scenario, because again, immortality contract, we don't know 100% if they can die. So it's like, even with all of that out of the way, it's gotta at least be cathartic for somebody who, again, was close to Arlen and V. It's gotta feel good for him just to see the 10 families take some shots at one another. But one thing I said before at the beginning that I wanted to talk about with Urek and Mirchea here, that I'm like a little bit vindicated that I held off on, because if this chapter didn't pan out how this chapter panned out, and I said it at the beginning, that would have been embarrassing. But what I was going to say is that power scaling is difficult in Tower of God, and I generally don't like power scaling discussions in general, because stories are meant to be stories. They're meant to be entertaining and well written, and when you get too deep into power scaling and you're like, oh, this person could never ever beat this person, then the story becomes less interesting. My personal belief is that any character can beat any character with the right preparation and the right circumstances. Similar to how Khun, with the preparation and circumstances of being able to teleport the bullet that was shot by LaFave with the assist of all these other characters, was able to use that bullet in order to kill the Windbird possessed, or the Coco possessed Windbird. Just as like Khun's just a regular, but all of that stuff went down because it's planning, because it's grander circumstances, it's writing a story. The power scaling didn't really matter so much. So it's one of those things where, again, with the right circumstances, either person wins this fight. Again, I think that I kind of take the rankings to not be like strictly power scaling or anything, but I think they're helpful. I think that Urek, to me, probably wins against anyone but Zahard. And even then, with Zahard, it's questionable. Even the series is like, in the blog post, they've said that. There's the story about Luslec going to the ranking, or Urek going to the ranking office and being like, why am I ranked 4th? And the ranking office guy being like, do you think you can beat Zahard? And Urek just leaving. So it's like, it is one of those things where everybody except Zahard, I think Urek wins. It might be difficult, like Urek versus Ariehon might be difficult, but I would say that's where I'd put him. But again, the right day, the right circumstances, Urek could lose, and I think that a character not being an irregular doesn't matter as much when you're at a certain level. Because at a certain level, we know characters like Calavan have rule-breaking powers, characters like White have rule-breaking powers, and at a certain point, when you have rule-breaking powers, you're not an irregular, you can't do everything an irregular can do, but you're almost somewhat like a pseudo-irregular. And a lot of people, I think with the rankings and stuff, will always cope and be like, oh, Bayakrion's not that strong, Mirchea's not that strong, or Malik 1 PGR isn't that strong, they're just up there because of influence. And I kind of say that that's cope, because to me, you can't really rank a person below a person if they could just be completely invalidated. Like, say somebody like Adori ranked at 7 versus Gustang ranked at 14. I don't think that you can rank Adori above Gustang if Gustang could just show up, challenge her to a 1v1, and completely wipe her out, completely invalidate her. Also, we have seen things in the past where Bomb, even though he was an irregular, he struggled with certain other regulars that were like at his point in the story in the early game of the series. And it's one of those things. Bomb, though he's an irregular, Season 1 Bomb, if somebody like a high ranker showed up, he would have been screwed. He just didn't know what to do. He had the power, he had the potential, but he didn't know what to do with it yet. So it's one of those things where even if you're an irregular, that doesn't mean you just instantly win any fight ever. We've had the stories of Aryeh Hagafarion, who's ranked 36th, surviving, what is the test, like surviving 5 minutes in combat or something, but passing the special test of fighting against Ariehone. So Hagafarion could fight against Ariehone for at least a certain amount of time. Stories like Malik 1 PGR fighting against Zahard. So again, a tower native fighting against an irregular. So there are things like that that make me think there are just straight up some tower natives that are that strong, especially when we take some of the people that are in these highest ranks that aren't irregulars. Like I mentioned Dodori, but the person sharing the rank there, Eurasia N. We know that people that get Zahard's blood in them, because it's the blood of an irregular and everything, they get a lot stronger. We know that using blood fusion, like what Yama used on the Mad Dogs, makes them stronger. We know that people born into 10 families, especially the closer they are related to the family head, are born more powerful than tower inhabitants. They're born with contracts. So they're like, again, you get somebody like Eurasia N, who is the child of 2 irregulars with the blood of a 3rd irregular fused into them, and then she's ranked 7. I believe N is probably really, really, really strong given all of that. And here's the thing, the family heads have immortality contracts, so without some special way to kill them, they probably can't die. But even if you can't die, even if it's like a Hardcore Alice from Magical Girl Raising Project, or I think maybe Deadpool works this way, I don't know, I'm not a big Western comic guy, but it's one of those things where you could smash them into tiny little bits, but one of those bits is eventually going to regenerate into the full thing. It could be something like that, where a family head could lose. A family head could lose a fight, but they just can't die. They'll just, no matter what, keep regenerating eventually. So it's one of those things where I don't think being an irregular is necessarily a get-out-of-jail-free card against some of the absolute strongest people in the tower. When it comes to somebody like Mirchea against somebody like Gastang or Traumeré, they could win. We don't have all the evidence yet, but it's like they could win. But could they kill them? That's what I don't know. Because here's the thing. With the immortality contracts that I still am questionable about is, with the immortality contracts, can you bypass them if you're like Vom, if you're an irregular, or if you have special powers, like where Ariehone said if Joaquin became a demon that he could surpass him? Does that mean they could just defeat him in battle, or does that mean they could actually kill them? Or do you have to nullify the contract first, which is something that I brought up when, when Yuan Sung brought up the fragment of the immortality contract. So Yuan Sung brought that up. We know that Yuan Sung has known about Bam for a long time, has been waiting for Bam. And if all of that is the case, is what Yuan Sung wants, is what his whole plan was this whole time, to get Bam to use his powers to destroy the immortality contract, since he can destroy spells by touching them, like we've seen him do a bunch of times by now. Is that the plan? And if so, can the 10 family heads even be killed, even by another irregular, without destroying the contract first? Like, without destroying the contract first, could Gastang even kill Traumeré, or Traumeré kill Gastang one way or the other? Like, would that even be possible, even though they're irregulars? We don't know how strong the contract itself is. So all of that is confusing. Though again, they kind of word it like it can happen if it's another irregular doing it. But yeah, that's something that I just wanted to waste a bunch of time talking about after last week, because after last week, that's something that I was thinking about, like power scaling wise. Not really power scaling wise, but something that I always see people like, oh, the people that are ranked super high are ranked super high because of their influence. They obviously couldn't beat an irregular. Meanwhile, I'm like, if they couldn't beat an irregular, they probably shouldn't be ranked that high, because at any point, you're like, oh, but influence. What influence does Bayek Ryun have if... Yeah, what influence does Bayek Ryun have if Traumeré could just waltz in and defeat him no matter what because he's an irregular? So that's sort of kind of what I'm thinking about all of these. But yeah, either way, with that all out of the way, my whole point in all that spiel was that I think that some of the strongest people in the tower, even though they aren't irregulars, can still hang with them in a fight. People like Mirchea, and we're seeing it here. Again, Mirchea's probably not going all out. Urek's definitely not going all out, and they're kind of hanging with one another. But either way, that's it. Thank you for watching. Like if you did like the video, comment down there to tell me what you thought of this week's chapter, my thoughts and reaction to it. Again, leave your thoughts down below. And again, on what we were talking about, it's one of those things where in the future, all that I talked about there could be validated. We could very much see it validated, or could be invalidated. Like with the information we have right now, that's my opinion on it. But 100 chapters later, maybe CU does just basically say, no, you can't touch irregulars. But at least for right now, I really think, given the context that we have historically, I don't think that's true. But subscribe for more Tower of God, much more on the channel. Follow on Twitter if you want. If you want a link to the Discord server, just ask and I can give you a link. If you'd like to help support the channel, then you could drop a super thanks down below. To help me to continue making videos, you could hit join down below to become a channel member. Go to patreon.com/Haku of the Tubes, or a link will be in the description to become a patron. And again, woo! Sorry, you get One Piece videos a little bit early, you get the knowledge of knowing you help support the channel, and you get a thank you at the end of every single video. So huge thank you to people who are already patrons and channel members. Thank you to Chosen Regular Evan Hawley, Magical Girls FR Nono and Smeller Dog, Cherryton Student, David Langstaff, Slayer Candidates, SG, who just got upgraded a crown from the Black Crown to the Bronze Crown, and Stan Cedar, and Pure Element Pateardi Owl. If you're wondering about the crowns, I put the Black Crown up there for people that have been a member or a patron for a year, and then I upgraded SG to Bronze for being here for 2 years as of a couple days ago, and Evan Hawley has been a Chosen Regular for 4 years. So Gold Crown, thank you to them. And once it hits 5, if they're still around, I'll just put another Black Crown beside it and they can start collecting crowns. But either way, thank you so much to them. Pure Element Pateardi Owl, sorry if I forgot there at the end. Thank you all so much for your support. Thank you all so much for your wonderful, amazing comments all the time, for all the support on Twitter and on Discord, and all the wonderful conversations that we always have. I really want to thank you all so much, and I'll see you all next time.